Here we are. We have Bethany over this hill here, and we have a fig tree. Remember in Mark 11:20, Jesus curses a fig tree. Look at the size of this fig tree. It's right in the same area. Jesus was on the way home to Bethany when he cursed the fig tree, and he was on the way back the next morning when Peter noticed that its roots had shriveled up. What I'm teaching on is Mark 11:20. When Jesus says have faith in God in most translations, or have the faith of God, it's actually in Hebrew and Aramaic, feed on faithfulness. And Jesus is referring directly to Psalm 37, where it says, dwell in the land and feed on faithfulness. It's actually one of the only scriptures, there's only two scriptures I know of that teach us how to have faith. So in this lesson we're going to be talking about faith and the fig tree. And this is Ariel, my daughter, and this is a huge fig tree. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about the fig tree. Jesus says in Mark 11:20, have faith in God, but in Hebrew and Aramaic it is feed on faithfulness. Yeshua is directly quoting Psalm 37:3, where it says, dwell in the land and feed on faithfulness. In Hebrew, this can have two meanings. Feed on faithfulness, we can feed on the faithfulness of God, and we can recall all his mighty works and what he has done. And this is like a spring or a diving board or something that propels us into faith for everyday living. And we go back to the book of Deuteronomy, and it's a book on remembrance. Before they entered into the promised land, they fed on God's faithfulness. Even the negative aspects and God's discipline, they fed on God's faithfulness. And the book of Psalms, every book ends with Amen, Amen, until we get to the fourth book, Psalm 106. It doesn't end with two Amens, because it's Israel's unfaithfulness. And in verse 13 on Psalm 106 it says they forgot his works and they didn't wait for his counsel. We're to feed on God's faithfulness. But in Hebrew and in Greek, there's no difference between faith and faithfulness. It's absolutely impossible to be a faithless person and to have faith, according to the languages, and I think outworking also. We need to cultivate being a faithful person, and we also need to. It works two ways. We need to cultivate being the faithful person, faithful to who we have called to, faithful to our friends, faithful to minister where God, to where God has called us into our immediate body. But we also need to be faithful and feed on faithfulness. And in Psalm 37 it says, dwell in the land and feed on faithfulness. And in the Hebraic way of thinking, it is you dwell in the land by being faithful, or by feeding on faithfulness. This is how you dwell in the land. So here we have the fig tree here, and Jesus curses it. And straight away he says to Peter, feed on faithfulness. The first thing Peter would have thought of was Psalm 37. And this is a symbol of Israel. Israel had been unfaithful, and God was about to send Israel into 2,000 years of exile. One of the ways, the biggest, the most effective way of understanding God's faithfulness is his dealings with Israel. And we know in 1948 the fig tree came alive again, and it sprouted leaves and buds, not fruit yet. Notice that we still haven't received the new heart of the new covenant in Jeremiah 31. But this is God's faithfulness. And remember, in the book of Ezekiel it says he brought us back to the land not because we deserved it. He said, don't you think I'm doing it for your sakes. You profane my name among the nations. God says he's doing it for his name's sake. He's faithful, and God's call and his promises are irrevocable. Israel rejected the Messiah, but their call to be head of the nations wasn't annulled or done away with, but postponed. And Israel is still called. Israel's calling is still to be the head of the nations. And so here we have the fig tree. And in Isaiah chapter 11, it says the gathering of Israel is an ensign to the nations of this earth. An ensign, a sign to the nations. And as Jesus says, when you see this happening, you know that summer is near, when there's buds and leaves, And he said, then all these things are about to take place. Okay, so later on I'm going to be teaching about what is the time of the Gentiles. It's pretty important for us to know that, and to get acquainted with the prophetic clock. So this is just a start of short video teachings. God bless you all from Jerusalem, and I hope this wasn't too long, but it's going to have part 2, because the word faith and faithfulness is also connected to believing, and the word amen in Hebrew, they're the same words. So we're going to make a stronger connection in part 2.